Hello, friends. If you're here right now, it's probably not by accident. You don't feel stuck in English because you're bad at it. You feel stuck because no one taught you how to think before speaking. You don't speak bad English, you're thinking in the wrong order. People usually don't search for videos like this unless something has been bothering them for a long time. And if this topic keeps pulling you in, it means one thing: you care about how you sound, and you want to finally understand what's going wrong. So take a breath. Stay with me for a few minutes. This isn't one of those loud, rushed English videos. There's a quiet frustration that English learners carry for years. You understand almost everything. You know the words. You can form sentences in your head. But when it's time to speak, your confidence drops. Not suddenly, but slowly, as if something inside you hesitates before allowing the words out. And that hesitation makes you believe something painful, that your English is weak. But here's the truth, and this is important. You don't speak bad English. You're just thinking in the wrong order. That one invisible mistake is enough to make fluent people sound unsure. Most learners believe confidence will come after improvement, after more vocabulary, after more grammar, after more practice. So they keep learning and waiting. But the waiting never ends, because the real issue isn't what you know. It's what your brain does before you speak. Right now, your mind follows a very heavy process. First, it creates the thought in your native language. Then it translates it into English. Then it adjusts the sentence. Then it checks grammar. Then it checks tense. Then it worries about judgment. By the time you speak, your brain is already tired. And tired speech sounds uncertain, even when it's correct. This is why people sometimes say, "Your English is good, but you sound nervous." They're not commenting on your language. They're reacting to your thinking delay. Native speakers don't pause less because they're confident people. They pause less because they don't carry this extra mental weight. They don't prepare sentences. They release thoughts. And here's something nobody tells you. Your education trained you to think this way. You were taught to stop before speaking, to check before answering, to avoid mistakes at all costs. So your brain learned that silence is safety. But confidence doesn't live in silence. It lives in flow. Every time you stop yourself mid-thought, you interrupt that flow. And every interruption quietly tells your brain, be careful. Over time, English stops feeling natural. It starts feeling risky. If any part of this feels familiar, don't rush ahead. People who stay with ideas like this usually see a shift, not because of motivation, but because understanding removes pressure. Why trying to speak correctly is making you sound weak. There's something most English learners don't realize. The harder you try to sound correct, the less confident you actually sound. And this is not your fault. From the beginning, you were taught that English is a subject, not a skill. Something to be solved, not used. So when you speak, your brain doesn't treat English like communication. It treats it like an exam happening in real time. Every sentence becomes a test. Every word becomes a risk. Every pause becomes pressure. And pressure changes the way your voice behaves. Your tone drops. Your speed slows. Your sentences lose energy. Not because your English is wrong, but because your mind is busy monitoring itself. This is the mistake. You're trying to sound correct instead of sound clear. And clarity always comes before correctness. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever heard someone speak broken English, but still sound confident? They make grammar mistakes. They miss articles. Their sentence structure is not perfect. Yet people listen to them. Why? Because their thinking order is simple. They decide what they want to say, and they say it. No translation loop. No internal corrections. No self-interruption. Confidence doesn't come from perfect language. It comes from uninterrupted expression. Now compare that to what you do. You interrupt yourself before you even speak. You stop thoughts halfway. You replace words. You restart sentences. So even correct English comes out sounding unsure. This is why confidence never arrives, no matter how much you practice. You're practicing English, but you're rehearsing hesitation. Every time you pause to correct yourself internally, your brain learns. Speaking English is dangerous. Be careful. And what does the brain do with danger? It slows you down. Here's something subtle but powerful. Confidence is not added after fluency. Fluency is created when confidence is allowed. And confidence is allowed when you remove self-surveillance. Right now, your mind is standing behind your words like a strict teacher, correcting you in real time. Native speakers don't have a teacher in their head. They have a listener. They focus on meaning, not mechanics. And until you change who your mind is speaking to, nothing changes. This is why motivation doesn't work. This is why affirmations don't work. This is why just speak more advice fails. Because the problem isn't fear. It's control. You're controlling your English too tightly. And tight control creates stiff speech. If this is clicking for you, stay right here. Most people leave at this point because this isn't tips and tricks. This is reprogramming. The moment you stop translating, English starts flowing. There's a very specific moment when English starts feeling lighter. It's not when your grammar improves. It's not when your vocabulary increases. It's when your brain stops asking for permission before speaking. Most learners don't realize this, but translation is not a language problem. It's a trust problem. Your brain doesn't trust that English thoughts can exist on their own, so it keeps going back to your native language as a safety net. But every time you translate, you add friction, and friction kills flow. Think about what happens when you translate. You don't translate meaning. You translate structure, and structure is heavy. That's why even simple ideas feel complicated. That's why your sentences feel longer in your head than they should be. Native speakers don't search for sentences. They release fragments. Ideas first, words later. That's the order you were never taught. You were taught to build complete sentences before speaking. But spoken English doesn't work like writing. Speech is unfinished. It's flexible. It corrects itself after expression, not before. When you try to finish everything in your head, you overload your brain. So here's the shift. Instead of asking, how do I say this correctly? You start with, what is the smallest piece of this thought I can say right now? Not the full sentence. Not the perfect sentence. Just the entry point. Once you say the first honest fragment, the rest follows naturally. This is how confidence sneaks in. Not loudly. Not suddenly. Quietly. Because your brain experiences something new. I spoke without freezing, and nothing bad happened. That experience rewires trust. And trust changes speed. This is why confident speakers often sound relaxed. They're not fast. They're unblocked. And this is important. You don't eliminate mistakes first. You eliminate delay first. Mistakes disappear on their own when delay disappears. Most people never question their thinking order. They blame themselves instead. But awareness is the turning point. When English stops being a performance, at some point, something quiet changes. You stop preparing sentences in your head. You stop waiting for the perfect words. You stop monitoring yourself while speaking. And English stops feeling like something you're doing. It starts feeling like something you're using. This is the moment most learners think, nothing special happened, but I feel different. That's because the change wasn't in your English. It was in your thinking order. You stopped translating first. You stopped correcting first. You stopped judging first. You started expressing first. And when expression comes first, confidence follows automatically. Not because you tried to be confident, but because your brain no longer feels threatened. Confidence is the absence of internal interruption. Once you understand this, everything becomes simpler. You don't need to wait until your English is perfect. You don't need to erase your accent. You don't need to memorize more rules. You need to protect flow. Every time you allow yourself to speak before doubt enters, you strengthen that flow. Every time you choose meaning over correctness, your brain learns safety. Every time you finish a conversation without replaying it, confidence compounds. This is why some people sound confident even with mistakes, and why others sound unsure despite perfect grammar. Confidence is not about language level. It's about permission. Permission to speak unfinished thoughts. Permission to sound human. Permission to continue even after small errors. If this perspective stayed with you, that means your brain has already started shifting. People who resonate with this don't need motivation. They need reminders. That's what this space is for. Ideas like this don't work if you hear them once and forget them. They work when they slowly change how you notice yourself while speaking. So, if this video helped you see your English differently, stay close to this channel. Not for techniques, but for clarity. And if you want to anchor this shift even deeper, share your experience in the comments. Not for others, but for yourself. Because the moment you stop blaming your English is the moment confidence finally has space to appear. And from here, it only gets easier. Make sure to subscribe our channel and press the like button. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.